Campbell Soup out with its latest earnings. Lots of things to unpack in these results. Let's bring in Campbell Soup CEO Mark Clouse. Mark, always great to get some time with you. I just want to let's start on the Sovos integration. I mean, this is your big acquisition. We'll talk about earnings, but what are you seeing in these early days? What do you like? What should investors expect?
Yeah, well, I talked about this a lot yesterday, and it's great to see you, Brian, as always. Look, I think in the world of having done a lot of integrations and a lot of acquisitions over the years, this one literally could not be going better. Across the board, when I look at the elements that, and again, fair, it's early days, but when you look at the elements that indicate positive acquisitions in general, you're looking for really affirmation of a lot of the diligence that you've done, and across the board, we see check marks on everything. I think what's been a pleasant surprise is that the growth on the business has actually accelerated from the time of announcement, which you don't always see, and has been really, really powerful. And I think across the board, whether you're talking about pasta sauce, whether you're talking about some of the category extensions, whether it was soup or dry pasta or frozen pizza, these are just tremendous positive contributors to growth. And as we laid out a year ago, we looked at the things or the reasons to believe for why the growth would continue. And a year later, I can tell you across the board, we've checked every box. And then finally, I just would say, what a gift to get the members of the Sovos team as part of the Campbell's family. I mean, they are tremendous. They've done a great job, hit the ground running. And so really, I got to say, Brian, across the board, we're feeling great.
I've told you this before, but I always view what you sell and what doesn't sell as a great snapshot in the economy. Now, you just mentioned Rao's pasta sauce, that's accelerating. Prego pasta sauce, that was pretty good in the quarter. Why is pasta sauce resonating with households right now?
Yeah, so, clearly, Brian, you and I have talked about this before. Consumers right now, although there's a lot of reasons to believe in recovery and improvement, it's important to remember, though, that for many consumers in the country, they have been weathering this storm of inflation, of higher interest rates, really pressure coming from all sides for a relatively extended period of time. I mean, we're talking literally several years. And so that pressure has trained consumers to find a path to still feed and satisfy their family, but to do it in a more affordable way. And when you think about affordability, convenience, and joy of your family, and you put those together, really a spaghetti and pasta sauce dinner, you can't really do better than that. And I think with the combination of a more affordable, more mainstream brand in Prego, and then the addition of a really one-of-its-kind, unique, distinctive brand in Rao's, it's really giving us a tremendous 1-2 punch in this very, very important area for consumers right now.
Every time you and I have talked, the one consistent thing has been the snacks business has gone well. That wasn't necessarily the case in this most recent quarter. What is happening there, and how concerned are you about snacks pulling off really, or just slowing down with some really strong growth rates?
Well, Brian, let's first put it into context, right? So as I've said many times, that through challenging economic environments, snacks historically has been among, if not the most resilient of categories in all of food. And I think it's been true in this journey we've been on as well. In fact, if you look at the last 3 years, the CAGR of growth for the snacks businesses have been 8%. I mean, that's higher, well above food, but also much higher even than historical run rates for snacking. I think what you did see in this quarter was a little bit of the normalization of that growth line and some building or mounting pressure as it relates to the economy in general. And so although we did see a more certainly off the pace quarter, I am not worried structurally at all about the business. In fact, when I look at the latest 4 weeks, so think of the period really through Memorial Day, which of course is a big weekend for snacking, the results have already begun to stabilize. And in many of the categories where we play, more of these elevated experience, think kettle potato chips over potato chips, or organic tortilla chips, these categories, all of them moved back into positive territory and generally mid to high single digit growth rates. So although I do think we'll see a little bit of normalization on growth, I am not worried about the long-term trajectory and the belief that snacking will continue to be an outsized behavior for consumers.
Mark, in our world of finance, check out some of the stories that we're tracking here. So NVIDIA, they make computer chips, AI chips, $3 trillion market cap. The jobs report might be strong, another consecutive month of strong jobs growth. We're talking about AI and an Apple event. But you mean to tell me we are just at a place in this economy, and I think this is something going overlooked, that a bag of pretzels is a luxury?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as a luxury, but I would say that as consumers are navigating this backdrop and this environment of a lot of pressure, and remember, as much positive momentum as we see it, I want to be really clear, the path to consumer recovery in the world of food has never been clearer than it is right now. You see higher consumer confidence as pricing is normalized. You're seeing volumes begin to recover. One of the things I look at very closely is the number of categories in food where household penetration is growing. We're now up over 70% of the categories that are growing. So there's a lot of reasons to believe, but nonetheless, if you are a middle or lower income household right now, you're still dealing with high interest rates, higher rent. You probably just took a hit on car insurance, right?
God, I did. Mark, my car insurance is through the roof. It's like double digits. What the hell is going on here? Come on.
These are real world influences on consumer behavior. And so although I don't see it as a luxury, what you might see is a consumer being a little more thoughtful, a little more choiceful, and maybe willing to try a private label brand, or certainly to look for something that may be on promotion or deal. I think this will, again, when I think about snacking over a longer period of time, the resilience has been astounding. But I do think we're in a moment where you're seeing a little bit of that consumer behavior that we may have seen on meals and beverages categories 18 months ago. And that really is a little bit of the dynamic, and why perhaps for people trying to pinpoint this recovery in food, it doesn't move in a linear way, and that makes it a little bit tougher to predict.
Is inflation, do you still find inflation to be frustrating?
I do. I mean, I think we all wish that we had more of a catalyst of deflation to see more relief in pricing. And I think the reality is that as we look at the world today and look a little bit forward, we continue to see somewhat of a mixed bag. Now, certainly, that inflation level has come down dramatically. We're not dealing with what we were the last several years, and that is very, very encouraging. But I think this belief of costs or prices coming down in a material way is just not what we're seeing on the horizon. I think we're going to be in a period, as I've said before, Brian, where you're going to have some things that are deflationary, and you're going to have some things that are still ticking up. And the balance of that, I'm hopeful, is a more benign environment for inflation going forward, but certainly not deflationary in nature.
Mark, maybe you could put me on your car insurance. I'm thinking you pay a little bit of a lower rate than me.
I don't know, Brian. How old are your kids? Right?
It's a good thing I have no kids. Maybe we could pass as some former relative. I mean, we kind of look alike. I mean, I could see the resemblance. I mean, the beard,
I don't know. You have to tell me what your driving record is, Brian, before I do that. But,
it's stellar, just like the folks
But let's
here.
work together. I agree with you. Let's work together.
My record is stellar. All right, well, Mark Clouse, always nice to see you. Campbell Soup CEO. Looking forward to that Investor Day coming up, right? And
yeah, absolutely. In September. We'll see you there.
All right, we'll be in touch. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian.